لا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وهدى وتقى ورشادا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع ومن قلب لا يخشع وبنفس لا تشبع ومن دعوة لا تسمع. نعوذ بك اللهم من هؤلاء الأربعة. أما بعد، فحياكم الله جميعا في الدرس 49 والأخير بإذن الله تعالى. This will be the last درس in our book صرف الميسر, or generally in our course of صرف for level 2 إن شاء الله. And in this درس بإذن الله تعالى we'll be discussing the important things that we need to focus on in order to prepare for the assessment إن شاء الله. And we'll be marking it with the golden or the yellow color إن شاء الله. Okay, so let's start quickly بإذن الله تعالى. When it comes to the تعريفات, طبعا يعني I might not be asking you the تعريف per se, but we can just ask you, for example, we can give you an example of a word or a couple of words and then ask you يعني what has صرف got to do with this word? Is it related to the wazn, to the bina, the structure of the word, structure of the sentence, or the meaning of the sentence? So مثلا, this is the kind of a multiple choice question that might come. So the ta'rif itself, it's not required, but I just want you to focus a little bit on the fact that the sort of changes that the science of sarf observes and studies are like ziyada, hadf, sihha, and i'lal. Just focus on it a little bit. Just go read through it or focus a little bit on it, and the fact that these are the kind of changes that usually occur in sarf, or these are the kind of things that sarf focuses on: asala, ziyada, hadf, sihha, i'lal. Then we said at the beginning of our study of the book, we used to mark some things as in golden colors to focus on for the assessment. Amongst those things was the difference or you can say what the asma mu'raba and af'al mutasarrifa were. This is related to the fact that the science of sarf only deals with asma نعم الأسماء الموضوع هو الأسماء المتمكنة المعربة والأفعال المتصرفة وما يتعلق بهما من أحكام. So it only deals with أسماء معربة, those أسماء that are معرب, and only those أفعال that are متصرف. So if a فعل is جامد, it's not متصرف, so sarf does not deal with it. If the word is a harf, the sarf does not deal with it. And if the ism is not معرب, then also the sarf does not deal with it. For example, أسماء الإشارة have got nothing to do with صرف. هذا, هذه, هذان. This is nothing to do with صرف. Likewise, أسماء موصولة, nothing to do with صرف, etc. The different فعل جامد is the one that only takes one form, like ليس and عسى. Does not have multiple, and cannot occur as مضارع, or cannot have, for example, amr out of it. Only adheres to one form, ماضي or مضارع, or likewise. And this is the example of فعل جامد is ليس, عسى, and we gave example of فعل جامد from تعلم if it is in the meaning of اعلم, and there was another one, subhanallah, I right now forgot. So the فعل جامد generally are those which are they adhere to only one form. Anyway, so this inshallah, this will also come. What is فعل جامد and not? That inshallah will mark there what's important to learn. Why do we study sarf? We already mentioned, to protect our lisan, or protect our language from any kind of mistake, and تحصيل معان جديدة, just to get new meanings by changing the structure of the word. So for example, علم means to teach, تعلم means to learn. Then who was the one who first laid the foundations of the ilm of sarf? This all can be, inshallah, we can ignore that. Okay, here most important thing was فإن كانت الزيادة أصلية زيدت لام في ميزان. With regards to ميزان الصرفي, in the ميزان صرفي, Or Mizan Sarfi is a way of expressing the wazn of a fi'l or of a word, right? So the only point that we said you should focus on is that if there is a fourth root letter, it will be expressed as a lam. So instead of saying in dahraja, you will say that the wazn of dahraja is what? What will be the wazn of dahraja in al-mizan al-sarfi? فعللا, فعللا. So the fourth letter here, fourth root letter, was expressed as a lam. So whether it's the fourth or the fifth or the sixth, uh, after the second root letter, every root letter will be expressed as a lam. So in Asma, there might be like more than um, 4 or 5 root letters at times. We said that the word with the most amount of root letters is qara' balana, al-qara' balana, right? So here you have 8 root letters. So every root letter after the second one will be expressed as a lam in the Mizan Sarfi. So this is the point that we need to focus on. Also, we need to focus on that in Mizan Sarfi, if there is a kind of ibdal that has happened in the fi'l, like in istabara, you're not going to express it with a ta in the Mizan Sarfi. Mizan Sarfi, you will go back to its original wazn and you will say it's on the wazn of ifta'ala. Because the ibdal here happened because of sad, right? It's not like and the family that it belongs to has changed. So you're only going to express it as its original wazn, and you're not going to take into consideration the ibdal that happened here. Likewise, istabara, or مثلا if I say وَلِدَّارَكَ عِلْمُهُمْ إِدَّارَكَ, you say إِدَّارَكَ is on the wazn of تَفَاعَلَ مثلا. See? So you will mention the original family that it belongs to. And you will not, for example, take into consideration the ibdal that has happened. Okay. Then we also said that if إن حصل في الكلمة قلب إعلالي أو إدغام وزنت الكلمة على حسب أصلها قبل الإعلان والإدغام. Likewise, when you are expressing a fi'l in its mizan sarfi, you're not going to take into consideration the i'lal or the idgham that has happened. So, for example, in qala, because of i'lal, this i'lal bil qalb, right? There was a waw converted into an alif, and then alif is a second letter. So you wouldn't say that qala is on the wazn of fa'la, fa'la, fa'la. No, you will say it's on the wazn of fa'ala. You will look at the asl of it. You will say the asl is qavala, I will say fa'ala. Likewise, for example, there's idgham, madda yamuddu. You will not say madda yamuddu is on the wazn of fa'ala yaf'ulu. La, you will say it's on the wazn of fa'ala yaf'ulu. You see, because you have to look at the asl, it's madada yamdudu. So these are 2 points in mizan sarfi that you need to focus on. Inshallah, if you read through it, you will remember it. Okay, then also we mentioned that the additional letters that can be added to a word are only 10, and they are all gathered and collected in sa'altumuniha. Sa'altumuniha. So any kind of an additional letter that would be added to a fi'l would be one of these 10 letters. Sa'altumuniha. Sin, hamza, lam, ta, mim, waw, noon, ya, ha, and alif. So this is a fa'idah that needs to be memorized as well. When it comes to the tadrib of mizan sarfi, I will ask you, for example, I can ask you the wazn of mizan sarfi of hiba and ud'u and nam and yaqi and ya'addu. Ya'addu, yaqi, hiba, ud'u and nam. واضح يا إخوان? Here I think we did not write the no. Here you have to be a little careful because in i'lal qalbi we did not take it into consideration, but i'lal bil hadf is taken into consideration in mizan sarfi. You see, like qul, he said waznuhu full. So given this, what will be the wazn in mizan sarfi of yaqi? What will be the wazn of mizan of yaqi in mizan sarfi? Because the waw has been taken away. It was waqa yawqi. Waw was taken away, so that's how you're going to express it in mizan sarfi without the فاء الكلمة. So how will it be? The wazn of yaqi in mizan sarfi. يعلو. أحسنتم. يعلو. يقي will be on the wazn of يعلو. So maybe you can just write it here because the asl, the waw has been taken away. This is just يعني this اصطلاح. يعني this is how they express in mizan sarfi. Doesn't mean that the family, you're going to create a family altogether just because يعني the واو فاء الكلمة is not there. No, if you are going to express the family it belongs to, you'll say it belongs to فعل يفعل وقى يقي. This is just like a ruling for mizan sarfi. Mizan sarfi has its own, some of its own rulings. Okay, طيب نأتي الآن إلى أفعال. In the أفعال, I said that of course this classification of جامد and متصرف will be important. What's جامد? That adheres to one form, صورة واحدة, and examples were given of ليس and تعالى, and then we gave examples of هلم, عسى, نعمة, بئس, etc. With regards to متصرف, that's the one that يعني can take more than one form. It can be ماضي مضارع, it can be all three, ماضي مضارع أمر, etc. And we gave the examples of تام التصرف and ناقص التصرف. ناقص التصرف means like it only takes two forms. تام التصرف takes all three forms. So ناقص التصرف, we gave examples of ذر and يذر and دع and يدع. So we don't really have a ماضي for دع and يدع, which whose asl is واو دال عين, but we don't use a ماضي from it. We don't say ودع. We say ودع maybe, but we cannot say ودع. Also, we don't say وذر. So this is ناقص التصرف. This is not required. The only thing that's required is like the general understanding of جامد and متصرف. Likewise, لازم متعدي. This is super important. Then, of course, صحيح, سالم, المضاعف, the classification of صحيح into سالم, مضاعف, and مهموز, and then معتل being classified into مثال, أجوف, ناقص, لفيف, مفروف, and لفيف, مقرون. All of this will be super important. This is يعني very, very, very important. As you could notice later on, يعني, during the book, we might not have used the مثال, أجوف, ناقص, these terms often, but معتل and mahmuz and and مضاعف were very often required. So with regards to مثال, أجوف, ناقص, and لفيف, we instead used to say معتل الفاء, معتل العين, معتل اللام, and that's how usually a lot of the Sarfiyin refer to the أفعال معتلة. Very seldom will you find that, or not very often do you find the Sarfiyin saying مثال واوي. مثال واوي means معتل الفاء بالواو. يعني the فاء الكلمة is a واو. Or أجوف مثلا واوي أو ناقص واوي. So usually you don't find the Sarfiyin using أجوف, ناقص, مثال very often. Rather they just simply say معتل الفاء, معتل العين, معتل اللام. So but still يعني it's important to learn these inshallah, so that at least you can refer to them in the future بإذن الله تعالى. طيب لحظة. نعم. ثم طيب حروف العلة تسمى حروف مد إذا كانت حركة مقام مناسبة لها. This was just a فائدة, and then we also يعني discuss something related to tajweed. If you remember that if the يعني ألف واو يا will be known as حروف مد, or واو and ya will be known as حروف مد if they are preceded by a haraka of their own jins. Like ya is preceded by a kasra, or waw is preceded by a dhamma, then it will be considered harf mad. If it's preceded by a fatha, then it will be considered as harf leen. This was a fa'idah tajweed that we discussed. This is taught in tajweed often, even though it's related to sarf. But this is inshallah not required. Such lazim jamid. Okay, when you learn lazim jamid, of course, and I'm going to ask you in the form of sometimes an example. I would say, like in this ayah, find a fi'l that is jamid, or find a fi'l that is lazim. هكذا. So it'll be more like the questions will be more you can say related to the application than theory. طيب أقسام الفعل من حيث التجرد والزيادة. طبعا this okay, if you remember this one, طبعا we all remember these six families. So and we have been doing them very often. يعني ما شاء الله, throughout the course, everyone was able to refer to these families with their names whenever I asked them. So inshallah, if you revise the names of these families, that will be good. Also dahraja. So names of the families, you already know them. No need to, as such, spend too much time on it. Okay. When it comes to each bab, we would focus on the ashhar mithal لهذا الباب, and that is the name of the family. Ashhar mithal means the most famous example, and that by that we are referring to the name of the family. And also now, there are some special features for every bab that we will be focusing on. So, for example, in fa'ula, we focused on that this bab is specific to af'al al-sajaya. Sajaya means the af'al that are related to the nature of something, that something has become a nature of another. If you remember kabura, yakburu, and your permanent characteristic, if you always focused on that. So all of these things will be important. Also, like a feature like la yati min hadha al-bab illa fi'lun lazim. So things like this will be important. ثم قلنا إن فاعل قياس مضارعه يفعل, and one example that we focused on was massa yamassu, and how can we figure out that it's on the wazn of fa'ala yaf'alu. So if you remember, we used to in the mudari', when you say yamassu, you can figure it out, it's on the wazn of yamsasu with a fatha. But in the madi, you can't really figure out massa. Is it masusa or masisa or masasa? So we used to have three options, and then we used to eliminate one option each using some kind of a hujjah. So we might ask you, not the hujjah, we might ask you that massa yamassu, what is the wazn of massa? Is it fa'ula or fa'ala or fa'ila? So we might ask you that. And how will you figure out? You will figure out by using the different qawa'id that you have in your head. For example, it can't be masusa. Why? Because in fa'ula, it has to be, the mudari' has to have a dhamma. So here the mudari' doesn't have a dhamma, so it can't be fa'ula. Can it be masasa, yamsasu, both having a fatha, that madi mudari'? No, because in order for that to happen, it must belong to the bab of fataha yaftahu. So the only option that we're left with is that it is masisa yamsasu. So this is the kind of way that we would eliminate different options. So this, I might ask you, not the reason why you're choosing a particular option, but I might just ask you only to choose the correct option. And you will have to just figure it out in your head why you chose masusa or masasa or masisa. طيب. Then we said shawaz مع القياس. We said generally فعل is قياس is fa يفعل, يعني علم يعلم, and حسب يحسب is shadh. And in the shadh we have two kinds of shadh, that which comes along with the qiyas. It has two lughat, so we're focusing on two examples here, hasiba and na'ima. And here we were also focusing on the extra page on the ma'ani of this bab. So we wanted to focus on the alwan, on the colors, and on the adwa or the amrad, which is the illnesses and diseases. So these are two meanings that we were focusing on, alwan and amrad. Okay. And then also وقوع الواو فاء الفعل جالب لكسر عين المضارع, which means that if the waw of the fi'l, if the fa of the fi'l is a waw, and then it's one reason that that is a cause. You can say it is a cause to have a kasra in the mudari'. Not necessary, but generally it is a cause for that. So for example, you say wajada yajidu, warita yaritu, warima yaridu. So whenever the waw occurs as a fa of the fi'l, the first root letter, there is يعني a reason for the mudari to have a kasra. طيب. We said, however, for example, in وضع يضع, it did not happen. And we used to give a reason for that. Does anyone remember the reason why the وضع يضع ended up having a fatha?
Is it because end has this hurf ayn, like
حرف حلق, yes, the حرف
yeah.
حلق يعني forced it to act also like فتح يفتح. So that is why we had a fatha. يعني even if you look at the way the in the mudari the waw was removed, it was destined to be part of يعني وضع يضع, يعني just like وجد يجد. It was supposed to be on the wazn of يفعل. But then after we removed the waw, the ain and he succeeded in forcing it to act like a fi'l from فتح يفتح, and so we had a fatha in the mudari. Okay, good enough, mashallah. For bab fataha, there must be harf halq in either in ayn al-fi'l or lam al-fi'l, either in ayn al-fi'l or lam al-fi'l. Likewise, you can focus on another 3-4 examples like ba'isa yab'asu and yab'isu and waritha, waliya, warima, and wathiqa. These are the ones that you can focus on, inshallah, just in terms of their application. Then we said fa'ala yaf'ilu. What are the different af'al that come from this bab? Mu'tallu al-fa'i bil waw. This again, as you mentioned, that's the waw occurring as the fa al-fi'l is a reason for it to have a kasra in the mudari. So even if the madi had a fatha in the mudari, it will somehow force it to have it to kasra. And mu'tallu al-'ayn bil ya, anything that has the ayn of the fi'l as a ya, then it will belong to generally the bab of fa'ala yaf'ilu, ضرب يضرب باع يبيع صاح يصيح. And معتل اللام بالياء like رمى يرمي أتى يأتي مشى يمشي وقى يقي جرى يجري قضى يقضي. These are the kind of af'al that belong to it. Honestly, here, and what kind of a question I can ask you? I can ask you a question like, for example, I can ask you, like I can come up with a fi'l, and I say that, for example, saha. And I say saha, its asl is sad, ya, and ha. I'll tell you the asl and I'll tell you the madi. And I'll then suggest a mudari for it. Should it be yasahu? Should it be yasuhu? Should it be yasihu? This is the kind of question that I can ask you. And what's the suitable mudari for it, given the fact that its ayn is a ya? Or for example, I can come up with a fi'l like masha, and I can say that the asl of masha is mim sheen ya. So suggest a suitable mudari for it. Should it be masha yamshu, masha yamsha, masha yamshi? I'm just giving an example. Of course, I've come up with an example with a fi'l that is not that you're not familiar with, but this is a kind of a question that I can make from this bab. Yani when we say that one of the features of bab of daraba yadribu is that it or the af'al that belong to this family should be ones مثلا that mu'talul ayn bil ya or mu'talul lam bil ya, etc. So these are the kind of questions that I can ask, inshallah. ثم المضاعف اللازم. Also, this is one of the مضاعف means مضاعف. That's the same thing. And lazim opposite to mutaaddi. This is one of the reasons why it belongs to the bab of or the family of daraba yadrib, like hanna yahinnu, or sometimes shadda yashiddu, etc. So, but inshallah, this you can just here I'll just focus with you on a couple of examples. مثلا this one, because it occurs in the Quran often, this and خر. بس هذا يعني focus on this example بس. then فعل يفعل we said يعني the different kind of أفعال that belong to this. مضاعف متعدي. معدى means متعدي. معدى is the same as متعدي. Then also غلبة المفاخرة, this was one of the meanings of فعل يفعل. سابقني فسبقته فأنا أسبقه. شاعرني فشعرته يعني I overcame him in شعر. I سابقني سبقته I overcame him in the race, for example. يخادعون الله وهو خادع. خدع يخدع يعني Allah overcomes them in the khadi'ah. So this is something that you can focus on. This is just because it's يعني a very good faida, but it's not like I probably wouldn't be asking you in the exam. So I won't be asking you about this, but this is something that is a good faida for you to learn. شهرة الضم, no need, honestly, because it's known to have a dhamm. So the only kind of question that here I'll be asking you is like معتل العين بالواو, معتل اللام بالواو. This is the only kind of question that I'll be asking. And I'll give you again a kind of a fi'l with the madi. For example, nawa, like zala yazulu or qala yaqulu. Likewise, I might give you مثلا راح يروح. So I'll ask you راح, its asal is ra wa ha. Suggest a good mudari' for it. يراح يروح يريح. This is the kind of question that we can ask, so we can just rather erase this. طيب. فعل يفعل, important one. حلقي العين وحلقي اللام. These are the two important things to remember, that in order to belong to the bab of فتح يفتح, it should either be حلقي العين or حلقي اللام. Then this one فعل يفعل يفعل, having two لغات, it can be just ignored. The ma'ani of bab of fa'ala, generally, these all can be left out. It's okay. We had some good fawaid in it. You can go through it, but you won't be asked about it. Al-mujarrad al-ruba'i. Of course, I'll ask you, or we will be using this term qiyas or maqis or sama' or shadh often. We have been using it, so there will be some kind of question related to it. I might ask you the meaning of fasih. النادر, definition. What's nadir? What's fasih? Fasih is like something that is used often. Regardless of whether it's qiyas or not qiyas, it's used often by the Arabs, it'll be called fasih. Nadir is something that is used less often, seldom, even if it is according to the qiyas of the Sarfi qawaid. So inshallah, you might be asked about it, because this will be important for you in even the dirasa of Nahu. Or if you go through the classical books, they usually tend to mention هذا fasih, هذا afsah. So what do they mean by fasih and afsah? Like the Arabs use this more often. Here, مثلا, I might ask you مضارع for walaja, just to check whether you will be dropping off the waw or not. And might also ask you طيب هذه سهلة, because you all know these abwab and these families, so won't be that difficult. Likewise, مثلا على يعلو, might ask you about it. يكفي إن شاء الله. طيب هنا we learned in this bab what حركة But yes, we learned in this bab what haraka should we be putting on the fa al fi'l in the madi if it is connected to the ta al fa'il. Like ba'a yabi'u, should we be saying ba'tu or bu'tu or bi'tu? So or how generally the madi should be like if it attaches with the ta al fi'l. So this one I might ask you, yani, question, for example, madda yamuddu, how will I say it for yani, the first person? Will I say maddaitu or maddautu or madattu, etc.? So I'll just ask you like a question related to its application. Likewise, da'awtu, and you can just focus on examples instead of the whole concept. Example 1, these 2 examples. This is super important. يعني خفت, for example, فعل يفعل, and here also you can add this one, طلت, طال يطول, طلت, and خفت again, which is mentioned above. And also قال يقول, باع يبيع. So here you look at the in باع بايع, you will look at the asl of the kalima. If it is ya, you will say bi'tu. If it is wa, you will say قال يقول قلت. So these are the 4 examples only that you will need to focus on. قلت بعت, and خفت and قلت, بس يكفي. And this one actually explained it in قلت and بعت, so we don't need to explain it again. We already said قلت and بعت. How it happened, you can refer to this. قول, you looked at the asl of the kalima, then you said قلت, you looked at the asl of the kalima بايع, you said بعت. ثم yes, نام ينام is important. Just like خاف يخاف. So whether you will say namtu or nimtu or rumtu, this you have to look into it. If you just do these 4 examples really well, you will be able to manage the rest, inshallah. Al-fi'l al-mazid. These different meanings, they are discussed with each bab separately, right? So we'll keep it to those abwab when we discuss them. If you remember, the meanings we did it from تهذيب بناء الأفعال. The meanings we did it from تهذيب بناء الأفعال. So in تهذيب بناء الأفعال, I think I've shared the file. I'll share it again with you. Meanings we can again refer to تهذيب بناء الأفعال for these different families. These different families and their مشتقات. Like what's the مشتقات of انفعل? You say انفعل ينفعل انفعالا فهو منفعل. اسم المفعول from it will be منفعل, etc. Likewise, افتعل, different meanings of افتعل. So all of these we will refer to for the meanings, and the مشتقات refer to تهذيب بناء الأفعال's slides, inshallah. Refer to تهذيب بناء الأفعال slides for the meanings and مشتقات. So this, you don't have to prepare this bab from the book. I'll just write here for this chapter. This whole bab you can just prepare from تهذيب بناء الأفعال. These mulhaqat, all of these you can ignore them. Yes, this one you should be able to, because you have done the bab of ibdal. So I might ask you the wazn of izdahama. I might ask you the wazn of ista'thara مثلا and ikhdarra. Just ask you the wazn. الفعل المضارع المعلوم طبعا how its حركات should be. This also is easy, alhamdulillah. ربما I might ask you something from the تدريب, يعني how you're supposed to derive the فعل مجهول and معلوم from it. So the theory is not important. The تدريب will be important though. For example, تجاهل, I want you to مثلا هنا لحظة مثلا مضارع of تجاهل it's important is easy, لكن مضارع of what would be difficult here? مضارع of استولى will be difficult, so we'll ask you the مضارع of استولى. Also we might ask you the مضارع of استعانة and أعد يعد. The فعل مجهول, again theory not important, تدريب is important. So I will ask you the مجهول of تغافل and for example تسلم, أراد, and for example ناجح. بس فعل أمر, again theory is not important as much as the تدريب is. You are pretty much familiar with it. So yes, I might ask you the فعل أمر فرأى and وفى, because these are very interesting. Also from here أم لا يملي, very difficult, I'll ask you about it. And I would also ask you the فعل أمر of خاف, because these are difficult ones. خاف يخاف, مضارع يخاف, زود فعل أمر اللي بخف. طيب نأتي إلى الأسماء. جامد مشتق لا يحتاج إن شاء الله, we can skip this. Yes, I would like you to memorize the list of the مشتقات though. يعني all of these مشتقات that we did, make a list of the مشتقات and memorize. So you will make a list of the مشتقات which are اسم الفاعل, اسم المفعول, صفة مشبهة, صيغة مبالغة, أفعل التفضيل, اسم الآلة, etc. All of these مشتقات that we did, make a list of them so that you can browse through these different options when I ask you, for example, what kind of a mushtaq is this? Yes, I would give you the options though, but you should have some kind of qawaid related to them in your head all the time. As a student of Sarf, all the time you should know what are the different options of mushtaqat you have, so that when you encounter a word in the Quran, you can determine whether it's an ism al-ala or it's a sigha mubalagha, it's a, what is it? So this list must be in your mind at all times. طبعا here he said that this would not be required. Shadh here, only thing that I'll be requiring is the qiyas. But so the shadh is not required. That's why I put a cross here, and you don't need to learn this. Then we said for fa'ila, the qiyas is fa'il. For ism al-fa'il generally, ajila, ajil, batira, batir, etc. So only you can focus on the qiyasi. Qiyasi ism al-fa'il, you can focus on it. For fa'ula, focus on the qiyasi bas. Yes, as we mentioned before. اسم الفاعل من غير الثلاثي. طبعا the اسم الفاعل من غير الثلاثي is easy. It's يعني we have hard and fast rules for that. You don't have to memorize different awzan. For each family, just take the mudari, replace the harf al-mudara with a meme having a dhamma, and that's it. That's the general rule, right? So that's why all of this, from غير الثلاثي, all of it will be important. So I might ask you, what's the ism al-fa'il from darrasa yudarris? Or what's the ism al-fa'il from ta'allama yata'allam? So you say muta'allim. And you have to put a kasra on the letter, on the second last letter. So this is important. For example, this line, وَكَسْرِ مَا قَبْلَ الْآخِرِ, will be important in يتجاهل and يتعلم. يتفاعل and يتفعل. Because the mudari has a fatha. You have to make sure you put a kasra in the ism al-fa'il. This will be important. الصفة المشبهة. طيب. Here in صفة مشبهة, the only thing that is important is that it is used to denote thubut and dawam. Thubut and dawam. And a continuity in the characteristics. So what's the meaning? What's the you can say dilala, or what does the sifa mushabbaha denote? It denotes thubut and dawam. And we read that all of these asma al-af'al generally, other than fa'il, were generally sifa mushabbaha, صح? Those that are taken from fi'l lazim, it's generally sifa mushabbaha, especially if thubut and dawam is intended. Thubut means, thabata means to become permanent. Thabit, it does not move. Thabata, steadfast, you use it for steadfastness. So in this context, it means, it refers to permanent traits. So sifa mushabbaha, its meanings, it denotes the permanent traits. And what are the awzan of it? All the awzan of ism al-fa'il for fi'l lazim. What were they? These are the awzan of sifa mushabbaha. This is sifa mushabbaha. If you want to denote through these awzan thubut and dawam of the characteristics, then it is sifa mushabbaha. Okay? So ismun mushtaqun min fi'l al-lazim. This is important. Sifa mushabbaha is also always derived from fi'l lazim. على وجه الثبوت والدوام. بس صيغ المبالغة, you can focus on فعال, فعول and فعيل, most commonly occurring in the Quran. I might ask you, for example, ولا تطع كل حلاف مهين هماز مشاء بنميم. I might ask you, like, حلاف, what is it? Is it صفة مشبهة, صيغة مبالغة, أفعل تفضيل, etc. So غفور, shakur might ask you, what is this صيغة? What is this? And what kind of a mushtaq is it? So these are the kind of things that you might be asked, inshallah. اسم التفضيل, طبعا, if you remember, we did its ضوابط from تهذيب بناء الأفعال. So this bab refer to تهذيب بناء الأفعال, because it had some kind of principles regarding how you're supposed to use the ism al-tafdil, like af'al, when you're comparing, for example, feminine gender to feminine, or masculine to masculine, or you're mentioning that it is the best in the absolute sense, then what kind of awzan you can use. So for the dawabit, I refer to Tahdhib Bina' al-Af'al slides for the rules, different rules. Okay, so you don't have to really prepare from here. Refer to that slide. We had only 4 rules. For the 4 rules, but the 4 rules is focus on. Ism al-maf'ul, again, definition not important. what is important will be the أوزان. اسم المفعول من الثلاثي يأتي على وزن مفعول مطلقا. From the ثلاثي on the وزن of مفعول. And sometimes he said that وشذت منها خمسة أوزان. These shad you don't have to focus on. You don't have to focus on them. Just focus on one shad. فعيل. Because it occurs often. فعيل بمعنى مفعول, it occurs often. طيب, and اسم المفعول من غير الثلاثي. This is super important because it has easy rules. Take the مضارع in its مجهول form, replace the حرف المضارعة with a meme having a ضمة فقط. And make sure that the second last letter is مفتوح. So this one is important. Yes. Okay. This one, we had a very important faida because it's related to a couple of ayat. I want you to prepare it. That قد يرد اسم الفاعل يراد به اسم المفعول. Sometimes اسم الفاعل, the word occurring will be on the wazn of اسم الفاعل, but its meaning will be that of اسم المفعول. For example, لا عاصم اليوم, and فهو في عيشة راضية. So this is just عيشة راضية مرضية. I just want you to just go through it. Not necessarily, I won't ask you, but it's important faida. Because then in the Quran, it's one of the issues that it's sometimes very confusing for the Mufassiri. Okay, here we did some good exercise. So we used to take out the fi'l. Okay, these ones were the difficult ones, if you remember. We generally said that the thulathi was on the wazn of maf'ul. But sometimes in thulathi, what happens is like it's mu'tal al-ayn. So you don't really say maf'ul. You say, for example, maqul or مثلا masir, right? So these are some things that you need to be looking into. So focus on this one and focus on qila as well. Also, here you will focus on this example, buniya yubna mabni. Also, this one, mahdud. There's a few examples you can focus on. And mu'ad. These are the difficult examples. So we need to focus on them a little bit. Then we talked about the different masadir. In masadir, okay, only the qiyas is important. Qiyas of the masdar of fa'ala and fa'ila, if it is muta'addi, its qiyas is fa'lun, daraba darban, fahima fahman. If it is lazim, then fu'ul, that's the qiyas. Qiyas is only important. And fa'ila al-lazim, and then its qiyas is fa'al, fariha farahan. For fa'ula, the qiyas is fu'ula, fa'ala, and fu'lu. Only the qiyas would be important here. Yes. ثم مصادر غير الثلاثي. طبعا these we will be covering them with the when you will be studying the awzan from تهذيب بناء الأفعال, you will be covering them generally, the مصادر of the فعل غير الثلاثي. So they are generally important. But is this important? تفعيلة, تطهير, this you can leave out. فعل, no خلاص. إفعال إكرام أوصل إيصالا أقام إقامة. This one is important. Again here صلى يصلي تصلية, ربى تربية, صلى تصلية. You guys gave me examples of جلة تجلية, ما شاء الله, ولا تولية, عدة تعدية. This will be enough, inshallah. Because why are we focusing on this? Because here, when there was a harf illah, and the lam al-fi'l, it was replaced by ta marbut at the end. So that's why this will be something important to focus on. Again, istiqama, this example is important, but generally the masadir will generally be covered when you will be preparing for tahdhib bina al-af'al, the different families. أوزان سماعية هذه تتركونها، نحتاج مصدر المرة. This is easy. The wazn for ثلاثي فعلة غير الثلاثي, just add a ta marbuta. And if it's already on the wazn of فعلة, then رحمة واحدة. مصدر الهيئة وقف وقة، مات ميتة جاهلية، اعتني علمة، وقف وقفة، رحمة رحمة من مرة. طيب, maybe I'll ask you مشية because it occurs in the ahadith that Fatima radiallahu anha, her mishya was like that of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. ذبح, why? Because it's also in the hadith, إذا ذبحتم فأحسنوا الذبح وإذا قتلتم فأحسنوا القتلة. So these two will be asked from the مصدر الهيئة. مصدر ميمي, we spent good time doing this, these three categories. So inshallah, I hope you will be able to do that. I can ask you a question, for example, if the fi'l is وعد يعد, so what should its مصدر ميمي be? موعد, موعد, موعد مثلا. So you'll say it should be موعد. But then I can ask you, for example, if the fi'l is عرض يعرض, what should its اسم المكان be? So you'll say, okay, belongs to category 3, اسم المكان should be مفعل, you'll say معرض. So this is important. And that's the only thing that is important here. As for in kana al-faw al-biya, if you just do these three categories, you don't really have to focus here much. If you want to go into the details, maybe you can, but generally, if you have memorized these three categories well, khalas, yakfi. You don't have to look into the other pages much. طيب, ثم اسم الكثرة. هذه أرض سدة. Okay, this is part of the mushtaqat, you can say. So only focus on سدة and أرض مسبع. كثيرة السبع, and سبع refers to predators. مصدر صناعي. مصدر صناعي, you can focus on وطنية, جاهلية, that's it. 2. اسم المصدر, this is important a little bit. Just these examples, if we focus on them, that will be enough. إن موعدهم الصبح وليس الصبح بقريب. Okay, this is easy. بئس المصير, this example I can focus on because it is صار يصير. So we said that what category should it belong to? It should belong to category 2. Why? Because its ayn is a ya. Unlike what is written in the book. In our book, it said that it should belong to category 3. But we said Sheikh Fakhruddin Qabawa mentioned that it should belong to category 2. So it's Masdar Mimi as well as Ism Makan and Zaman all should be on the wazn of Maf'il. Ism al-Ala, you can focus on just 3 awzan, just remember them, and one example each. Maybe the easiest one, for example, here. Miqas, often used. Mijan, that's used in the hadith at times, that's enough. If'al, miftah, and مثلا ميزان, okay, مفعلة, مكنسة, broom, and مطرقة. You can focus on this. Rest, inshallah, you don't need to focus on them much. من الأحكام المشتركة إعلال, the types of إعلال are important. إعلال بالقلب, النقل, تسكين, حذف. You just know these types. I can ask you what kind of إعلال happened here, what kind of إبدال happened here. In إبدال, of course, you can just focus on examples. Focus on examples. This example is important. Why? Because it occurs in the Quran. And this one also is dajar, will be important, occurs in the Quran. Here also is tabar in the Quran, ittarab, ittala. These examples are very enough. Yes, itta'ada, ittasafa. This is also important. Only focus on the examples. In the tatbiqat, okay. In the tatbiqat. والله تطبيقات كانت صعبة شيئا ما. Maybe I can ask you what's the asl of istafa. I can ask you what family that yuqinun belongs to. I can ask you what's the original wazn of maqam. This is the kind of thing that I can ask you. I won't be asking you really what exactly went on behind the scenes. From the qawa'id sarfiyya, this one is important. This one is very important. We use it very, very often, very important. This one also we use very often, so I want you to remember this. This one also, with regards to Hamza, how to pronounce it. This one as well. And this one, because we have been doing this often. That's it. That's it. Okay. So these are the important things that you will be asked about. Okay. I now want us. I want to consult you on one thing, that is, if the syllabus seems very long to be prepared all at once, do you want us to divide the assessment into two parts so that it's easier and more beneficial when it comes to preparation, or do you want it to keep it to one assessment? This is something that I want your advice on. Barakallah fiik. So if you could just tell us, jazakumullah khair, in the chats. Option one is, should I be making only one assessment and you want to prepare all of this together? Okay. And or should I be dividing this into two assessments, half the book, and this will be our second option. So far we have 3 votes. 3 votes for 2, 1 vote for 1 assessment. Okay. We want to ask Sheikh Muhammad, ما رأيكم أنتم؟ نجعلها اختبارين نصفين أم اختبارا واحدا؟ أخي مصطفى, Sheikh Muhammad. طيب, let me share a poll on Telegram, inshallah. That'll be more helpful, inshallah. خلاص, إذا نقف هنا ونكتفي بهذا القدر, وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. And inshallah, once you vote on Telegram, خلاص, I will then announce the dates when I will be sharing each assessment بإذن الله تعالى. نكتفي بهذا, والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك، نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت، نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.